This is what people call the black box on a plane, though it's actually bright orange. Whenever one of these is recovered, it usually means a tragedy has already happened. Experts carefully extract the box, unscrew the bolts, pry open the cover, and peel away the fireproof and shock-resistant layers one by one. Finally, beneath the last seal, an electronic panel is revealed, the key to uncovering the truth behind an air disaster. It's hard to imagine that inside this tiny device lies the truth behind the deaths of 300 passengers. Now that the black box has been found, everyone is waiting for answers. But just then, the audio analyst who was originally in charge of the case mysteriously disappears, and so the task of decoding the black box falls on a young man named Matthew. Matthew has an extraordinary sense of hearing, so sharp that he can reconstruct entire events just from sounds alone. He begins by playing the cockpit recording from the black box, and in his mind, the moments leading up to the crash begin to take shape. The plane was flying over the Alps, the two pilots were relaxed, even asking a flight attendant to bring them a meal. Then, the aircraft entered a patch of turbulence. Suddenly, the audio signal became distorted. The static grew louder and louder, until the pilots' voices could no longer be heard. The last sounds captured were a flurry of ground control calls, and terrified screams from passengers. Then, the recording cut off. No clear cause of the crash could be determined from the audio, but Matthew didn't give up. He kept adjusting the playback settings, turning up the volume, even when his colleagues couldn't stand the noise and removed their headphones. Finally, amidst the chaos, Matthew picked up a crucial sentence. That single line led investigators to identify a particular passenger, a member of an extremist group. The crash was soon declared a terrorist attack. Thanks to his exceptional work, Matthew was promoted to lead audio analyst. But just as he was about to finalize his report, an unexpected phone call made him question everything. The caller was a family member of one of the victims. He said he'd received a voice message from his wife right before the crash. At first, the message seemed normal, but when Matthew looked into it, he noticed something disturbing. The timestamp on the message was 3 full minutes after the time the black box recorded the crash. This meant the black box's timeline had been tampered with. If that's true, then everything they believed about the crash could be wrong. Matthew took his suspicions to his supervisor, but the supervisor brushed it off, saying Matthew was overthinking things. When Matthew asked about the missing audio analyst, he was met with indifference again, and was simply told to finish the report. But Matthew couldn't let it go, not with 300 lives hanging in the balance. He listened to the audio again. This time, he noticed something else, a command for an emergency landing buried in the background of the voice message. That meant the plane may have had a critical mechanical failure. To confirm this theory, Matthew went to the crash wreckage storage site. He sat inside a mock-up cabin seat, put on his headphones, closed his eyes, and let the sounds transport him back to the moment of the crash. Suddenly, he realized something shocking. The so-called terrorist never entered the cockpit and never launched an attack. So what really caused the crash?